Hi, it's Melinda from Alexis and Melinda's Art Space. What am I doing today? I decided to play with some paper clay. Now this paper clay I got from AliExpress quite a few years ago for my daughter, and we had some left over, so I found it the other day and decided to make some things. So the molds you're seeing me, the yellow pieces there, are actually rubber molds that I picked up years ago. Everything's years old in my stash lately. And they were for fondant or for marzipan cake things. So each of the feathers have a positive and a negative, like a two-piece sandwich. So just grabbing out some clay there and going to roll it into little sausages to put into the feathers. That blue chucks cloth that I've rubber banded together that looks like, well, it's got, I've sort of gathered it all up, and at the top it's actually got baby powder in it. Because this clay sticks to everything, the baby powder actually stops it from sticking, and the way you can get a really thin amount of baby powder on your project is to put it through one of those blue, I'm sure they're Chucks, CHUX cloths. You can get different colours, but it has a really fine weave. So you basically pop a blob of baby powder in the middle, tie it up with a rubber band and sort of dab it, and it puts a really thin layer of the baby powder, and that helps release your paper clay from the molds because it can get quite sticky. So I do use generous amounts of the baby powder, and it basically just flakes off after the paper clay is dry. So this is paper clay, so it's really, really light, and it's air dry clay, so you don't need to bake it in the oven or anything like that. You just need to let it air dry about 24 hours and it's good to go. Probably don't need to leave it that long, but I usually do. I'm not worrying if I get overhang. You see the couple of small leaves I'm doing? I'm sort of experimenting how much paper clay I need to put in the mould, because I'm squashing them down quite thin. They're only about 3 millimeters thick. And the overhang I will just trim off when it's dry. It's easier to go and trim it off when it's dry than to actually try to fuss around while it's wet and you're not wasting that much clay. I bought a bunch of it really cheap from AliExpress several years ago, and I'm trying to use it up before it dries out. If you store it in an airtight Ziploc bag, it's usually pretty good for a couple of years. And I do apologise for the wiggling of the camera. I am pressing quite hard on these moulds, and I am working on a trestle table, and my tripod is leaning on my trestle table. So I do go and make some different there I'm trying to clean off, and they're sticking together and it's making an awful mess. Trying to clean off with just a bread and butter knife the edges, and then I give up and decide no, I'm just going to leave it until it's dry and snip it off with a pair of scissors. The Tim Holtz heavy duty scissors worked really well for that. So I'm done with my little feathers, and I thought, oh, I've got all this clay left, what else can I make? So I had an idea and grabbed a couple of embossing folders. I think I only grabbed the one at this stage. So I grabbed some more air dry clay out. I found with the embossing folder, I had to dust it very well with the baby powder and dust the clay very well, because it does stick. And it was sticking to the acrylic rolling pin I got with the clay. So I think that's more for fondant as well, but everything's good in love and war with craft. You never use it for what it's supposed to. So just trying to make some round shapes and then get some of the pattern from the embossing folder imprinted. I do have to do it several times to get the technique down. And the great thing about paper clay is if you wreck your shape, you simply just remold it and start again. So that one's a keeper. So I'm trying for a circular shape, so I have to do what? Trying for a circular shape. I can't talk today. Trying for a circular shape, but they do go into sort of ovals. But that's okay. This one's got a swirly pattern and they look really, really cool. So I find if it doesn't work, I just go ahead and do it again. So I do a few of these on camera, and then I do a bunch off camera as well. So just lightly pressing them onto the embossing folder. The embossing folders have a positive and a negative, so using the positive part, so the piece that's sticking up on it. You could use any sort of texture. I found the embossing folder was just close to hand, so that's what I grabbed. But you could press basically any texture lightly into the clay to make an impression. Didn't know what I was going to use these for at this stage. I ended up gifting some to Wendy Mason in one of her challenges, because I did do this quite a while ago. and just getting to do the voiceover now. The white clay is great because it takes inks and paints very well, and you can colour them any design or any colour you want to suit your projects. That's what I've got coming up next. So I hope everyone's doing well. I'm sitting here on a late Sunday afternoon, and excuse if you can hear sirens. There's a bunch of sirens, and I heard a helicopter go over before. Hopefully it's not a bad car accident down the road. It's usually what it means when there's several sirens and a helicopter. So that acrylic roller is actually quite good, except for sometimes the clay sticks, especially if you squish it. Like you've got it coated on the outside with the baby powder, and then if you go and squish it and expose some of the inside clay, it does tend to stick. So it is a bit of trial and error. It'd be a fun activity to do with your kids as well. You can basically make anything out of paper clay. And I do thank you, Alexis, for putting my lovely transitions in my videos. She did that to one video a while ago and now insists I put them on all my videos because apparently it looks better. So here I grabbed a big piece of butcher's paper, laid all my shapes out, and decided to attack them with my sprays. So I've got a variety of sprays. That purple one is an ink spray that's quite old. There's a couple of homemade alcohol sprays made from permanent markers. There is also a couple of Lindy Stamp Gang metallic sprays. I had a problem with trying to dry it off in between the layers because I didn't want to get the paper clay too wet with the sprays, and they kept flying around the paper. I made some really cool background paper with these awesome pattern paper and just these voids of where the leaves and the discs were sitting, so that was really cool too. So killing two birds with one stone. Then I had this great idea. I'm going to flick some paint. Not so great idea. So this paint it wouldn't spray. It's a water brush paint I got from Aldi. It's a very thin paint, so airbrushing paint, sorry. Airbrushing paint from Aldi. It was only $1, so I thought I'd try it. So it is a thinner, more liquid paint, but it sort of blobbed, and now it looks like I've got bird poo on my project. So I do try to fix up some of the spots. I would have preferred the white dots to be more dainty, but art is art, and whatever happens, we just go with it. I'm just wondering if I do turn them over and do the reverse side. Oh, then I try to get some of the big blobs off and go in with a bit more colour. You can basically go in with as much colour as you like, just bearing in mind you don't want to soak the paper clay with colour. I could have easily painted them with acrylic paint, but I decided to spray. So then I decided to go in with a darker splatter and try to improve the splatters. So this one is a dark, I think it's a dark blue, or it could be a black. I did do this a while ago. Then I decided to splatter with this Lindy Stamp Gang. I see a few YouTubers take the sprayer out and just dab, and they get these delightful little splatters. I go and do it and they get big blobs. That's right, I need to practice some more. So just drying off with a heat tool, and that one just wants to run away. So thank you for watching. We're nearly coming to the end of the video. I'm sorry I don't have some still photos at the end of close-ups of these. I did send most of them to Wendy Mason. I will be making some more eventually because I would love to do some embossing powder on them. I think that might be my next move. On the feathers would look really cool. And I've got loads of paper clay to use up. So I may bring them up and show you closer. I'm not sure. As I said, I filmed this a while ago and just adding the voice to it so I can pop it up. I'm trying to get all of August scheduled. This will go up later in August because I do have a large craft show in August for my business, and time is just running away with me. Trying to get everything organised. I know YouTube should be the last of my worries, but I like you guys to have videos to watch as well. So I'm trying to get organised, which is not a word that goes in my vocabulary very easily. If you talk to Miss Alexis, she'd say I'm the least organised person around, but I am trying. Some days not hard enough. So I'll leave it there, just adding the last few splatters. If nothing looks right, just add more splatters. Isn't that what we do in art and in crafting? Thanks for watching. Bye for now.